Hey everyone, welcome back to Blow Up. Today we've got 5 wild Reddit stories that will have you laughing, cringing, and maybe even questioning humanity. Stick around and don't forget to hit that like button if you're ready for some epic drama. Story 1. Entitled Father Demanded I Pay for the House He Bought for His Stepdaughter. This will be long. A few years ago I posted about how my father cheated on my mother, and how I retaliated to him financially and socially. This will serve as somewhat of an update as there have been developments ever since. For those who go back and read that post, I have some good news. About 5 months after I posted my story, my cousin reached out. He had been fired from his job, but he had met a wonderful girl that really changed his perspective. Growing up, he's an only child, and his parents were rich enough he didn't need to care about school. While I and my sister thrived academically, he made no effort to even try to graduate from high school, as being a legacy meant that he would always have a place in the local plant, the one that's big enough to support our entire town. That was until he found out how his family was struggling financially. His mom had spent all their savings to keep an unnecessary lavish lifestyle, and the local plant, after 3 decades, decided to stop hiring people without a degree or a trade certificate, legacy or not. My cousin was working as a bus operator at that time, but got let go and couldn't find a job, and that's when this girl changed his life. She pointed out how helplessly he was, being a golden child, not having to do anything growing up, and he listened to her. He reached out trying to make amends, and I and my sister accepted it. He went back to community college, got a degree, and started working at the plant last August. That's one relationship saved. At his wedding, my aunt also wanted to make amends. She had a falling out with my father, and perhaps her son had talked some senses into her, so she reached out and wanted to talk. Now we're much more reserved about this one because we knew her antics so well, but she was quite genuine and understanding when we said we couldn't let her back into the grace as easily as her son. We went LC for a while. She's made efforts to be friendly to my niece and nephew, and never showed signs of any malicious intents. We're very much still keeping her on a short leash, but I want to believe that people can change, and so far she has not given me any reason to think otherwise. That's 2. The third is my grandmother. She's 85 this April. Among the grandchildren, I am the closest to her, so it pained me to have to go LC with her since our last interaction. She had also had a falling with my father because he was trying to get her to sign over her estate, maybe a story for another time, but she was having none of it, so they fought, and in the end he went AWOL. They did not see each other for a year, until he showed up at my cousin's wedding. At said wedding, my father made an effort of avoiding me and my sister, but approached my BL to brag that he had bought a house that he and his mistress were living in. We did not think much of it at first because his pension is hefty. To those who read my previous post, even though it went down by 40%, it's still almost as much as double that of my aunt, so he can very much afford such a commodity. But then after we're on talking terms, my aunt let it slip that he had to take a loan to pay for that, but his name is not in the deed, it's the oldest son of the mistress instead. At this point we figured that he's being scammed, but yeah, not our problem. Because of a series of incidents at my job, I was offered a much more secure and high-paying position. I will admit that this is truly an opportunity one thought I'd never have for at least another 3 years, but perhaps one can only have so much tragedies. With the raised salary, my mom's money from the divorce, and my sister help, I was able to put down a payment for a house for me and my mother, even though the housing market in my city was as crazy as ever. Even though I'm now eyeballs deep in debt, I'm proud of myself for having a house to my name. My father didn't contribute anything, and frankly I didn't want to take anything even if he had asked. Around late November of last year, my childhood friend, with whom my cousin and I are very close, died from a car accident. It was very sudden. My cousin called me at 2 in the night, and before I knew it, I was home for his funeral. Needless to say, I was in a bad mental place in the days leading up to and following his funeral, so I decided to move back home until after Lunar New Year, which is 2 weeks away, to take care of my grandmother, but I was also hoping a change of scenery would do me some good. My mother stayed to look after the kids. My sister's house is literally within walking distance from mine, so she'll be fine. 7 days after said funeral, my father showed up at my doorstep. I was very much still grieving, so I was in no mood to play games. I shut down any effort at pleasantries and just stared at him while he mumbles about traveling or some shit. Then he told me that his mistress' second child, a girl, is attending college in my city next summer, and suggested we meet and be friends. I just laughed and told him to fuck off. That's when he brought up the house. Apparently, the precious little stepdaughter doesn't want to stay in a college housing campus, nor does she want to share an apartment with friends or other renters. She wants a whole house for herself. In the middle of the worst housing economy in our country's history. Of course, having taken a loan for the house he bought for his stepson, He could never afford buying a house in the capital city where prices go up by the hours. In an attempt to please his mistress, he came to me, asking for money. I kid you not. This man literally dropped my sister off in a foreign city and told her to fend for herself when she went to college the first time, and now he wanted to bend over backwards for a child that isn't even his, while asking for money from his son who he loudly claimed that he'd rather see dead. I truly can't comprehend the gears in his geed. Little did he know, he poked me at the worst moment possible. I was still grieving a lost friend. I ripped him a new one, detailing things I didn't even know where it came from. I was mentally checked out when my mouth did the work, and towards the end I cracked my voice a little. He tried to argue a bit, but after my aunt and cousin showed up, they live nearby, he bolted. That was last month and I haven't heard from him since. Not that I care anyway. Work is busy and I have Lunar New Year to prepare. I'll admit that encounter didn't do me any good. It stings, tbh, having your father prioritize a child that's not even his over his son and daughter. I've had sleepless nights over it, trying to think of a good reason, maybe something we did or something in his life that was so unsatisfying that he had to seek it elsewhere, and not within his own family. I've come to accept that even though I always say I'm over it, deep down I'm still hoping for a reunion, hoping that one day he will come fo his senses and try to make amends. It's a long shot, but I hope for such a day. I'm not letting my guard down for 1 second. If anything, I'm more vindictive than ever, but I have hopes. Wow, talk about a family reunion from hell, right? What would you do if your dad tried to fund a house for someone who isn't even his? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think revenge is sweet or should we just let it go? Back in 2008, my partner and I took a gay cruise through South America. Picture this: 3 days in Rio during Carnival, a week of debauchery on the high seas, and wrapping up in fabulous Buenos Aires. Pure bliss. Well, mostly. Back then, the concept of a boatload of homos docking in port was breaking news in some places. Everyone was friendly, but I still felt like one misstep by any of us would be a permanent black mark on gays everywhere. The stakes were high. Now, my partner and I weren't exactly rolling in it, inside cabin poor, but we splurged on a few nights at a nice hotel after the cruise. Turns out, so did half the queens on that ship. By 10 a.m., there was a line snaking out the lobby doors, all of us hungover and politely waiting our turn to drop bags and wander off until check-in. Enter them. A couple behind us decided they were simply too important to wait. One of them had some VIP ultra diamond titanium whatever status with the hotel, which supposedly came with early check-in. The clerk, who had the patience of a saint, explained that early check-in was based on availability, and at 10 a.m. there wasn't any. But these two? Oh no. They lost their entitled minds. Voices were raised. The clerk's intelligence was questioned. Her English, which was impeccable but slightly accented, "We were in Buenos Aires," was mocked. It was full Karen energy, but double-barrel gay edition. Security eventually stepped in. When it was finally our turn, I felt like I needed to make amends for the sins of our people. I apologized to the clerk, told her no one should be spoken to like that, and casually mentioned how much we appreciated her professionalism. We had a lovely little chat about travel and the cruise while she processed what I assumed was a placeholder for when check-in time rolled around. Except it wasn't. With a smile, she handed us 2 keys. For a suite. A massive suite with a stunning view and rooftop pool access right down the hall. "Enjoy your stay," she said with a wink. And enjoy we did. So, to the entitled queens who screamed their way into oblivion, gracias darlings. That view was everything. Talk about a meltdown that turned into a luxury upgrade. Imagine if every entitled moment got rewarded with a sweet upgrade. What would you have done in that situation? Drop your thoughts below and tell me your wildest entitled encounter. So, I got into a fight with 2 people tonight. The reason in itself was very dumb, but God, I was just tired of it. I met up today with 2 friends, Clara and Jenny, fake names. We went out to a bar and sat on one of the tables outside. There was a TV on the bar, so there were many people watching a football match with different drinks. We got our drinks and after a while, a man came, left his drink on our table and left. We looked at each other like, what the hell, the bar is literally 5 feet apart, and there weren't even that many people. He could have easily put his glass there instead of on our table, but whatever. We kept talking and drinking and after a while there was another man who left his finished drink at our table. "I can leave this here, right?" he asked, didn't even wait for our answer and left. Again, what the hell, we were annoyed, but whatever. Then came a polite guy and he asked us if he could leave his drink on our table for a bit because he was waiting for a friend. It was cold and his hands were freezing. We said, yeah, of course you can, man, no worries. He even offered to put it on the floor if it annoyed us, but we had no problem with it. Gave the drink to his friend, thanked us, then they left. And after a while, another drink was left in our table. The guy didn't even look at us, he just put it there and it was obvious it wasn't finished. So I had enough. It may seem petty, but you aren't sitting in this table, therefore you don't use it. If he had asked us if he could leave it there for a moment like the previous guy, we would have had no problem, but he didn't. Rude. So I took the drink, got up, walked towards him and offered it to him. Me, excuse me, this is yours. Him, what the, is it bothering you that much? Me, yeah it is. It hasn't been the first time and we aren't the bar. If you're finished with your drink, the bar is 5 feet apart from you. A friend of his took the man's drink and put both his and his friend's drink on our table to piss us off. So I got up, grabbed the drinks and took them to the bar. I knew they weren't finished and I knew they'd be annoyed, but that's what happens when I run out of patience, I don't care anymore. They said I was being ridiculous while I walked away, and when I came back, Clara was yelling at one of them and tugging on one of the men's arm. I then saw she had my umbrella on her hand and I realized that while I was returning the drinks, they had tried to steal my umbrella and Clara was getting it back for me. Jenny had been in shock, but at that she started arguing as well. They got more and more rude, saying how we had no manners when I had been nothing but polite with them. It was only when they yelled at us that we started to yell back at them. We kept telling them it wasn't their table and that if it was only for a moment they could have asked and we wouldn't have minded at all. At one point, to piss us off, one of them got dirty cans that had been on the floor and put them on our table. I threw them away while still arguing with them. One of their friends apologized to us and looked so embarrassed. They went away for a bit and one of them came back for more, until we pointed out how he was a grown 50-year-old man harassing and arguing with women in their 20s over a table and a drink. The friend that had been supporting knew at that moment that they were embarrassing themselves, because he came back and told him, "Come on man, you're an adult. If you want to watch the football match on the TV, then fine. And if you want to get a drink and there aren't any tables left, then that's a you problem." If they had asked like the third polite guy, we wouldn't have minded, but instead they blew it up because that's how drunk and bored they were. There were even people on our side telling them to leave us alone. I feel a bit silly now that I have a more clear head for how I behaved, but God, I was just so tired of people using our table as if it was theirs at that moment. I never insulted them, BTW. When I say I screamed at them, I mean that I kept remarking how it was our table and to leave us alone. I'm seeing a lot of comments saying the staff should have done something or wondering why we didn't tell the staff. First of all, in my country there aren't bouncers at bars, they are at discos. The concept of drinking here is very different to the American one. In my country, it's very normal to see parents drinking peacefully at a bar while their children play on a nearby park, or for their children to join them and have a soda or a non-alcoholic drink. It's normal for people to be at a bar with friends at 11 a.m. on a Saturday and having a drink with them. Second, most people who were outside drinking would go to the bar, get the drink, pay for it, then leave and drink it outside. Finally, it was busier inside than outside and there weren't many workers, and the ones who were working were doing everything at once, with some of them acting as both waiters and as bartenders. It wasn't very crowded, but there were still a lot of people they had to take care of. They probably didn't even see nor hear what was going on outside due to how many people were inside. They were just two drunk, idiotic men and we were able to handle them. It all happened pretty fast anyway. Who knew a few extra drinks could spark a full-on table battle? If you were in that bar, would you have picked up the drink and marched over like a boss? Let me know your wildest bar encounters in the comments. A few weeks ago I finally bought a new car. Nothing too flashy, but it's a big deal for me because I've been saving up for a while, got lucky from a slot win on stake of $9,000. Anyway, I was feeling good about it. One morning I was driving to work and saw my neighbor walking down the street. We're friendly but not super close, and I figured I'd be nice, so I pulled over and asked if he needed a lift. He happily accepted, and during the ride we realized we work fairly close to each other. No big deal, right? Well, apparently that one ride turned into an unspoken agreement. The next day I saw him standing at the same spot, clearly waiting for me. I thought, alright, whatever, I'll give him another ride. But now it's been every single day since then. Rain or shine, he's there. No text, no asking, just standing there waiting. At first I didn't mind too much, but now it's getting on my nerves. Some mornings I just want to listen to music, zone out, or even stop for coffee without worrying about someone else's schedule. I even tried leaving earlier once, thinking he'd get the hint, but nope. Next day he mentioned how he must have missed me. I don't want to be a jerk, but I never agreed to be his personal chauffeur. I was just trying to be nice once. Now I feel awkward bringing it up because I don't want to cause any weird tension with a neighbor. Would I be the bad guy if I just started running late, or having meetings in the morning? Or should I straight up tell him I don't want to give him rides every day? Is it just me, or is every neighbor secretly expecting a free Uber ride? What would you do? play the ghost car or have a heart-to-heart with your neighbor? Drop your funniest carpool stories in the comments. As the title says, I'm hosting a birthday party and I let my daughter invite some new friends she's made this year. Yesterday I get a text stating my daughter and I would love to attend, and since I don't drive, the only way we can attend is if you drive me and my daughter to and from the party. Please let me know because my daughter is very excited to be able to attend. This is literally the first conversation I had with this woman. I don't know her from a hole in the ground. I told this parent I'd be too busy hosting to drive anyone. She seemed really upset in her reply. We live in a farming town that is spread out over a large area. For all I know, she could be on the other side of the township and it could take a very long time to drive them. I also have to pick up the cake and snacks day of the event. I also have to set up and decorate the rental hall the day of the party and tear it down. The rental hall is cheap, but that means I'm responsible for all the cleaning, so that means I'll be there for a long time. This isn't even the first time I've been asked to pick up and drop off another family for a birthday party I was hosting. At least the last time it was a cousin-in-law and not a complete stranger to me. I hope there isn't any social fallout for my daughter, but I already told my kid to blame me because I don't mind taking the blame. Imagine being roped into an unplanned Uber duty just because you're hosting a party. What would you do if a total stranger demanded a ride to your kid's bash? Let me know your most outrageous party pickup stories below. Thanks for sticking with these epic stories, everyone. If these wild encounters made you laugh or rage, hit that like button and subscribe to blow up for more unfiltered Reddit drama. Which story was your favorite? Let's chat in the comments below. See you next time.